Love Your Wife podcast. It's a Love Your Wife podcast. The Love Your Wife podcast. Love Your Wife. Love Your Wife podcast. The Love Your Wife podcast. The Love Your Wife podcast. Love Your Wife. This episode of the podcast is brought to you by aplanandplace.net. A Plan in Place sells customized planners for homeschool families. They help parents and students breeze through their homeschooling days. There's a planner for every age: early learners, elementary, junior high, high school, and homeschool moms. Right now, you can get 10% off your entire order if you go to aplanandplace.net/loveyourwife and use the coupon code LOVEYOURWIFE. That's aplanandplace.net/loveyourwife and use the coupon code Love Your Wife. A Plan in Place. Homeschool planners to help you breeze through your homeschooling days. This episode of the podcast is also brought to you by Frickin' Frack Foods. This is 5-star in a jar, made with San Marzano tomatoes, no sugar added, no preservatives, no seed oils, crafted by hand in small batch production. Once you tried this sauce, there is no going back. My wife absolutely loves this sauce. Every time she gets an opportunity, she'll use it. I see her the other day, she dipped some steak in it. She just loves it. So if you're looking for this sauce, you can go to frickinfrackfoods.com or go to Sprouts. And if you live in Georgia, you can go to Publix. This episode of the podcast is also brought to you by Flashover Action Shots. Freelance sports and action photographer, firefighter owned and operated. She took action shots for me and my band's performance, and the pictures were absolutely incredible. If you're in need of action photography, Flashover Action Shots is for you. This is the Love Your Wife podcast with your host, Dennis Byrne. Today we have a very special guest, Andrew Glaze. And Andrew Glaze is somebody that I've been following on Instagram for a while. After my knee surgery, I had a buddy tell me to look him up on Instagram because I wanted to do ultras. And he was very motivational for me and my wife, actually looking into doing these 50-mile races. We haven't done 100 yet, but we're going to. We've done a couple 50s and 150K. And we really appreciate you and your message. It's a little lighter than the David Goggins, which I appreciate as well. But it's about being happy, you know? So I really do appreciate that. And for everybody who's following you, I'm sure they want to say that to you. We appreciate it. Thank you very much, Andy.
Well, you know, I like to put out the positivity. There's enough negativity on the internet, so hopefully I can be a slight beacon of positivity out there.
Definitely you are. So we start out with the introduction, and I know that you're a husband, father, captain who's going to be a battalion chief soon. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Also, head of the union, right? Union president.
I am for another month, and then sadly I have to give it up.
Is it because you're going to be a battalion chief?
Yeah, because battalion chief's considered management, so I'm joining the dark side.
Yeah. Also, ultra marathon runner. So, do you want to introduce yourself? I gave you a little introduction there, but if you want to say a little something about yourself.
Sure. So, I mean, like you said, I'm a firefighter from Southern California. I'm currently going to be a battalion chief in a month, and I'm a fire captain on a quint currently. I have 3 kids, 13, 12, and almost 10, so I guess 9. And I'm married. We've been married 5 years, and I run a lot. I have a current streak going of running over 100 miles for 219 weeks straight, so over 4 years. And I've done a lot of ultra marathons. People tend to follow me because I do a few. I think I've done over 40 100-milers and quite a few 200-milers, and then all the little ones as well. And yeah, I think that's it, you know.
All right. Yeah, it's such an inspiration. I remember sometimes running in the summer in Florida is not great, and I remember those videos of you running the Cocoa Canyons, and you're in the 250, and you're just, you know, in the pain cave, as you would say.
Right.
And I just remember those videos, and I'm like, man, if this guy can do it at like 350 miles in a weekend, then I can run this 10 miles,
Yeah, I mean, I try to, show the highs and the lows. I feel like
Yeah.
social media is a lot of highs, but ultra running is a lot of both. So if you're going to show the whole picture, you gotta show all the down parts too, and then show the perseverance of getting through those low points.
Yeah.
So
We appreciate it. And this is the Love Your Wife podcast. So we're going to talk about your wife and how you love your wife. I've
perfect.
appreciated that journey along the way, with the stories and how you got her into running, and you guys do the ice baths and the saunas together. My wife and I, we do something very similar. We done the 250 milers that we've done. We done them together. And, but the first question I like to ask my guests are, do you love your wife?
I do love my wife very
Yeah.
much. She's my best friend.
Yeah. So you said you've been together for 5 years, correct?
We've been married for 5, but I think we've
Okay.
been together for like 8 years. Yeah, 8+.
Okay.
So yeah.
How'd you guys meet?
So she worked at the hospital that I would take patients to as a firefighter. She
Mhm.
was a phlebotomist, and her friend was a nurse, and her friend was dating one of the firefighters at my department, and we were both single, and they like kind of hooked us up on like a blind date type thing. And yeah, I mean, we both like we had seen each other at the hospital, but we had like never talked or anything like that. So
Mhm.
um, yeah, it was a kind of a blind date by mutual friends, but kind of like the circle was small.
Yeah. Well, I get that 100% being in the fire service as well,
Yeah, yeah.
That's a lot
So
how they meet their significant
right,
others.
right. And then now she's a nurse. We put her through nursing school, and then now she's a nurse. So
Oh, that's awesome.
she moved up.
So, how did you propose?
So I did like a double proposal. Like, so the
All
first,
right.
I had this huge plan that I was going to propose at the end of a 100 miler, um, Javelina 100, and I ran with the ring for the full race, but I ended up DNFing that race.
Oh,
So yeah, I got like really bad chafing. It was like hot, and just it wasn't one of my best races. And so like 60 miles, I pulled the plug, and I ended up just like proposing in the parking lot, her and I just by ourselves.
Mhm.
But then, so she knew that, that we were going to get married. But then I did another proposal with the kids and involved them. So she came home one day, and I had all the kids, and they all had like a different sign. It said like, "Will you marry me?" And they were all holding a sign. And then I was in front of them holding the ring. So she walked in and she saw the kids and saw me. And yeah, that was like the real proposal. But like,
Yeah.
we had like a little side proposal, in my delirium in the darkness in the parking lot at Javelina.
Yeah.
I
No,
wanted to propose like at the finish line, and when I was like successful in the 100, I had like, these big plans, but yeah, it didn't work out.
yeah. I think that's important that you mentioned that you proposed again, because I think a lot of men aren't satisfied with the way that they proposed, and they just kind of leave it like that. Not saying that you wouldn't be satisfied with the way you did it, but they just kind of leave it at that, and it is what it is. So I think it's important that you were like, hey, let's do it again. And you
Well,
can
and I
keep
wanted
doing
to
it
involve the
again.
kids. I wanted
Oh,
the
yeah,
kids
that's a
to be
good point.
involved too.
Yeah,
And they
that's a good
didn't know
point.
that I had like proposed earlier. So, to them, it was
Oh,
all like, new, and yeah, nobody knew. So it was like, she didn't tell her parents or anyone. And like, then we did it again. So
nice. So, what's your favorite memory about your wedding?
probably, when we're doing pictures, and you get like the first, they take you off, and then you do like the first look, I think is what
Hmm.
it's called, right? Where like you get to
Yeah.
see her for the first time in the dress and everything. Um, that was pretty amazing because, I'd obviously never seen her in the dress before. Like I knew that
Hmm.
she picked a dress and, all that stuff. But yeah, an amazing dress, and she looked great. And um, it was, I mean, our wedding was amazing. We had a really, really, the location was great and all that. But yeah, probably the best memory was just that, like, sort of 5 or 10 minutes that we got alone, before everything started, um,
Mm,
you know, doing the pictures thing. So,
nice. So you do a lot of things like we mentioned before. Does your wife support you in everything that you do?
yeah, yeah, she's like my biggest fan, and she definitely, she allows me to be crazy. Um, I've been this way since before I met her. So
Yeah.
when she got got with me, I was already doing 100-mile races. So I always tell her, like, you knew what you were getting into. I mean,
Yeah.
there's no. It's not like we got together and then I started this like crazy running bug and then changed. Like I've been pretty consistent since we've been together. So, and she's seen some pretty like insane things that I've done. So like I did like a 200-mile a week streak for 18 weeks, which is running quite a bit.
Yeah.
30 something miles a day. But I couldn't do that at work. So then on my days when I wasn't at work, I was running like 45 miles a day. So for 18 weeks. So she's seen some things, and when I do these really crazy things, she's the one that like keeps me alive. Like if I'm running
Mm,
45 miles a day, there's not a whole lot of time for anything else.
yeah.
Um, so like she has to feed me and like do my laundry and all those things, like in a supporting role that like keeps me going, because it takes a lot of time, energy, and effort to like do these crazy things. So she is very supportive, and likewise, like I'm very supportive in her shopping addiction, and her I
Nice.
she has a closet full of clothes and all the things she likes, when she wants her nails done or her hair done and all that stuff. Like I support her in all of that. So
Hmm.
we mutually support ourselves and like what we love in life. And yeah, it works out. Like we're a good team when it comes to it. And then she's really into like lifting weights, and like she's gotten into like half marathons, and then she's done a marathon, and then she did a 50K as well. So
Mm,
um yeah, we support each other in our craziness, but we definitely, we both have our little things that we need in our lives to feel good. So I don't
yeah.
ever, you know, she never like makes me feel guilty for running so much or like racing so much or anything like that. It's not. She's always super supportive and like wants me to do it. So it's nice that way.
Yeah, I think it's good to know that question's a great question because I think a lot of the times guys are looking for that support from their wife and they're not quite getting it. So they're not reaching the potential that they have, in, their career or, the racing, physical endeavors. So I love that question. And I think you are the perfect person to answer that question, really.
Well,
you
and
know?
I think speaking like as a firefighter, you have to find like a partner that is like okay with being alone, and
Yeah.
and and a lot of I've seen a lot of unsuccessful relationships in the fire service, including my own unsuccessful relationships in the fire service, and a lot of it has to do with like that your partner is not okay with like alone time,
Yeah.
because when you're at work for 2, 3, 4, 5, 20 days straight, your partner has to like continue on with her life or his life or whatever, and that's hard for some people. Some people are very needy and they need like a lot of attention, and not to say that you don't still give attention, but it's just different. And so,
Yeah.
I have a wife who like enjoys her like alone time when I'm at
Mhm.
work. And so, likewise, she doesn't get uncomfortable when I'm like next week I'm flying to Wyoming to race a 100-miler, like, and she's going to be, just with the kids, and she's okay with that. Like, it's like almost like I'm just at work. So,
Yeah.
but it's a struggle, I think, in the fire service because we're not at home, to be able to to do that. So
Yeah, one of the things that I saw was she posted a story. You got back from your 250, and she posted like a little story of what you brought back in your drop bags, and she was like, "Well, I guess I
yeah.
have to clean up," you know.
Well, because I got home and then it was like I immediately had to go back to work. So I
Yeah,
was like, I didn't even have like a chance to do anything. And then I'm at work for 48 hours.
yeah.
So yeah, so she cleaned it all up. Normally I do that, but
Mhm.
I had to get back to work and that was just that. So um, yeah, she doesn't like
Well,
clutter.
okay. Well, I feel like that's the support. That's that support system. It's hard to beat.
Yeah, yeah. No, it's good, but uh, yeah, I should have cleaned that up.
um. So, do you believe in? I know you do hard things with your wife, but do you believe in doing hard things with your wife? Do you feel like it's a good thing for a relationship or a couple?
Yeah, I do, and I think you know, it's good to see your significant other um suffer
Yeah.
on both sides. Like we've definitely had runs where we've gone out and we both had GI issues or just our legs were heavy and we weren't feeling good and we just had to work through it together and it's a fun experience, like the highs and the lows. I trained her to run a marathon last year and we did a lot of really long runs and we both had to suffer, whether if it was the heat or just in general. It was a downhill marathon, so we had to run downhill for when I was training her for 18, 20 miles. And, it's hard on the legs,
Yeah.
especially on pavement. And, so we're both suffering together and pushing each other together. Plus it's just fun. You're spending hours and hours and hours with, your spouse, with no distractions, which is always nice as well. But, yeah, I mean, the couple that suffers together stays together, right? Isn't that the saying?
Yeah, I think so.
Maybe not. Maybe not.
Well, one of the reasons why I love that question is because we did a 50 miler in Daytona, and at mile, I think 25, she was like, "You know what? Just go on. We have an aid station coming up. Go on without me. Like, I'll see you. Maybe I won't see you. Like, I'm not feeling great." So I said, "Okay, I don't know what the right answer is, but I'm feeling all right." So I kept going, and then I got to the aid station and I turned around and I was like, I wonder if I could even see her at this point. And I turned around and she was right here. And I was like, what the hell? Like, you get to see their spirit, that fight in them. I think that's awesome, if that's what you
Sure.
have, right?
Well, and just like in life, right? In a relationship, you have highs and lows, and in suffering, you have highs and lows. And if you can get through the suffering in a short, ultra or a race or a marathon or whatever it is, it does make it easier to do in life. So if you're
Mhm.
bonded that way as a couple, um, then when hard points I don't know, if your kids, something happens to your kids and, it's really stressful, things happen, you can handle that stress a little bit better because you've worked together as a couple to handle the stressful things during your training or whatnot. So,
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of the reason I work on mental strength so much and ultras and stuff is so that I'm stronger in mental strength in my life, whether it's the fire
Mhm.
service or just life in general. The tricks I learn out there on the trails and um, in these races, I'm able to push into other aspects of my life. So it would be the same for relationships as well.
Yeah, I would agree. If you create your own adversity rather than have something come up and not know how to really deal with it, because you're not used to doing those hard things with your spouse, you know?
Right.
Um,
Yeah.
so what is it about your wife that made you want to marry her?
Um. Well, we get along really well. Um. I mean, I've been together, like I said, like 8 years with her, and I don't think we've really ever had a significant fight. Like
Hmm.
we just click really well, and we always have. Which I've had, obviously, I'm 46 years old. I've had lots of relationships in my life, and I've never had that before where like we just clicked, and there's no like fighting. Like I feel like fighting is like a normal part of a relationship, or I guess it was until I met Lauren, and now it's not, and it's really really nice. It's really nice just to like, I mean, we have disagreements, but like we
Hmm.
don't fight, there's no yelling, there's no like going to bed angry, there's no like power struggle or anything like that. So there's that. And then, we're a blended family. Her two daughters and my son, um, got to like get along really, really well. And they always have from day one, which is, I think, also very odd. Not odd in a bad way, but just like
Yeah.
it's not normal. I come from a blended family, and I hated my stepbrother and stepsister, and still do to this day. I don't even speak to them. I hate them so much.
Yeah.
So if they're watching this, just know I hate you. But so that's really nice too when you have like the family dynamic working really well, and the kids getting along, and then you're getting along, and um, yeah, those two things combined was just like really, really great.
Yeah. Just making your life easy, right?
Well, I mean, it makes you happy, when you're in a situation like where you can see your kids playing together, and that's really great. And then when you're in a relationship where you get along really well and you click really well, it's like, it just makes you happy, and it feels good to be happy.
Yeah. So how has your relationship changed over the years?
Um, well, it's like, I mean, when we first started, she was working, and then we put her through nursing school, which was very stressful. It's a
Yeah.
very stressful like 2 years of not only I had to work a bunch of overtime to pay for it, but then also just she was stressed out all the time because going through that's like very very hard. And now she's a stay-at-home mom, so I mean it's changed just because like different life events have like gone on. Um, our kids are a lot older now, so then it's like that's changed things as well. Like
Hmm.
having a 13 and a 12-year-old is interesting in this day and age with the internet, and um, yeah, it's a lot. And then we're both divorced, so having to deal with the exes and all that stuff is can be stressful at times as well. But in general, like I mean, we've just become closer as a couple, and um, yeah, I mean, now that she's like a stay-at-home mom, it's like I kind of get all her attention when I'm home because she's
Hmm.
not having to like rush off to work or like do things like that, and we don't have to juggle, um, you know, the kids. Like, oh, I'm home from work now, she goes to work, and like things like that are like not an issue anymore, which is nice. I mean,
Yeah.
it gets a little stressful when you have kids, and I work a 24-hour shift, and then she was working night shifts, and she'd come home from night shift and like be exhausted and have to sleep during the day. I mean, it's just an interesting dynamic. So I think it's gotten better. Just, it's nice having her just focused on the kids 100% of the time. And then I think it's really good for the kids as well. I mean,
Hmm.
financially it's harder, but you know, it's like the kids are only young for so long, and then if she wants to go back to work once they're gone, that'll be on her.
Hmm. So, has divorce ever been mentioned between you two? I know you said that you both got divorced before. Did you, before going into this marriage, talk about like it's not an option, or what are your thoughts on that?
So I mean, yeah, we're both divorced. I mean, getting into a relationship, I always say one thing. I'm like, if we're going to get married, then my rule is basically like, I don't do cheating. So like, if you ever cheat on me, that's like a non-negotiable. So, I mean, that's probably the only time it's ever been mentioned is just like, I think you have to draw a line in the sand and like tell the person that you're with, like, hey, this is my trigger point. There's no going back after this. There's no like, hey, we're going to go to therapy and work through this. Like, if you cheat on me, that is like, I immediately check out and I'm done. Um, and I think she probably feels the same way. I mean,
Yeah.
if I cheat on her, then she's not gonna like, it's not gonna be the same either. So that's the only time, like, just I think, and when you're in the beginning stages of a relationship, it's probably pretty good to be honest with. I know you say for better or worse and all that, and yeah, for better or worse, but cheating is not a worse. That's like end game for me. So we're both okay with that, and those rules. And but yeah, we don't. I mean, like I said, we don't fight, so there's
Yeah.
no talk of divorce because it never even gets to a point where like we're upset enough to like to get to that point. Now in previous relationships, like yeah, I can remember like that whole dynamic, and I'm just so happy that I don't live in that world anymore.
Yeah, for
So
sure. So what does being a husband mean to you?
I think it means supporting my wife, making her life as great as possible, while also pushing her to be the best person that she can be. Um, and in life, I'm always trying to make everyone around me better. I think that that's always my goal, whether it's like the guys at work or my kids or random strangers on the internet.
Mhm.
I'm always, trying to get people to find their full potential, and I've done that with Lauren quite a bit. Is really try to get her to, be her best, and she's really done a lot since we've been together. Obviously nursing school is a big deal, but also like she's like an athlete now. And when we first got together, she did not work out. She did not know anything about anything, and now she's quite an accomplished weightlifter, and then also she's run marathons and an ultra, so like
Yeah.
she's a decent runner as well, and it's just super fit, and it's great to see it. And just she's become a really really good mom. Like when we got together, her kids were really young, and she was going through or she had gone through this like horrible divorce, and um yeah, just watching her become a great mom, through support and talk and all that sort of thing. So doing all that, I think, is what it's all about. Like building your spouse up to be is what being a good husband is all about.
What do you think being a good wife is like, or what is that about?
I think it's a similar. I don't think there's a big distinction between wife and husband. Like she supports me in the things that I love, and pushes me to do better, and pushes me to like accomplish whatever it is I want to accomplish. She supported me when I became a captain, and then she pushed me to become a battalion chief, and she keeps me accountable on my streaks and my races, and like supports me in all those things. So whether it's work or leisure or whatever, but like she just is my biggest fan, and
Mm.
my best friend, and like we just march through life together. So she makes me a better person just like I make her a better person. So that we're very different personality wise, but it's a good yin and yang that we mesh together.
Mhm. So I had a buddy ask me when he was on the podcast. He said, "What changes? Like, what do you think a woman's expectations are after you get married?" And he was like, "It was like 10 o'clock at night." And he was like, "If she texts me right now, do I leave? Like, what do I do? Like what changes when you become a husband?"
um well, I think it gives a certain level of security to your wife, that you're not gonna like peace out, like for stupid little things. Like if you're just in a relationship, I guess there's always the chance that like, something could happen and you could, end it. Hopefully if you get married, it's a serious enough a commitment that it provides some emotional security, and stability in life. I mean, life is very unstable, and um, I'm so glad I'm not dating in this environment now, because it's, I have a lot of younger firemen and they tell me about how crazy it is, and like I can't even imagine. I've never been on a dating app or done any of that stuff, and it's very different now. So yeah, I think the biggest thing is probably just stability. It's like you're committing to the person, but like you're also, they don't have to worry that you're going to go out and get somebody else, or they're going to get somebody else, or have to do all that stuff. I mean, I know people cheat and do that stuff, but that's not me. So, and
Yeah.
yeah.
So, what are some ways you keep your relationship fresh?
Well, because we're both divorced, and we split the kids 50-50 with the spouses, or the exes.
Okay.
So we do get alone time. But even still, like, well, now our kids are old enough that they can babysit themselves. But before that, we have babysitters, and we definitely make sure that we go out and like, go on dates, have nice meals together, things like that. I like to travel. She likes to travel. And we definitely try to like do at least one big trip, just her and I, a year. Um, and that's always really nice. Like this year, we're going to go to Italy.
Oh,
We're going to go roam around Italy for like a week. So, obviously we're looking forward to that. Um,
is there a race involved with that?
maybe the race is first, but then after that, we'll spend a week in Italy. It's kind of like
All
a
right.
reward. It's like we get through the race and then we get a week in Italy.
Nice.
Yeah, I mean, that's, we've been to a lot of countries, and I'd say maybe 60% of the time there's a race involved. But there has, I mean, we went to Iceland, we went to Singapore, things like that, no race involved. But we've definitely been to some other countries where races were involved. Um, yeah. So yeah, I mean, just that whole like idea of still dating and still like going out and doing stuff together, when we don't have the kids. But then we still like, when we have the kids, we still do like family stuff together too, which is, I think also important.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, have you ever had to nurse your wife back to health, or she had to nurse you back to health?
Um, Nurse her back to health. I mean, she's definitely been sick before. Like, seen like I'm pretty sure she had COVID at one point that was pretty bad.
Okay.
Um, yeah, I don't know. I don't, not too bad. Like, we're not like, we don't get sick too often. I mean, I get sick, but like I just like muscle through it. I mean, because I got this streak going on. No, not. I mean, not really. I mean, maybe a little bit, but
Mm.
if I'm sick, she takes care of me the same way as if I'm just running a lot. And if she's sick, then I just probably take more of a supportive role with the kids and just let her rest. But I mean, we tend to be pretty healthy when it comes to that sort of thing. So luckily, knock on wood, we'll maintain that.
Yeah, it's pretty impressive because when I was training for, I did a 52 miler in Bryce Canyon. When I was training for that, there was a certain point where I was getting over COVID, and there was, I think, probably 2 to 3 weeks where I just couldn't breathe when I was running.
Yeah.
But so me knowing that, and then knowing what you've been able to accomplish, like that's pretty crazy. Where what you, I know that you must have off weeks, but you still
Yeah.
get it
I
done.
mean,
That's
there's
really
definitely
impressive.
like, there's been a couple times where I got real sick. I probably had COVID. I don't know. I mean, I had something that was pretty significant. I'm not I'm a paramedic, so I'm not one of those people that goes and like has a doctor confirm that I'm sick when I know I'm sick,
Yeah.
As paramedics, is like, am I bleeding to death or am I about to die? Then I'll go to a doctor. Otherwise, I will fix everything on my own.
Yeah.
That's pretty much the, paramedic credo there. So, if I get a cold or a flu, I'm not going to the doctor for any reason. But yeah, that being said, like when when we went to Europe once, I came back and I definitely caught something significant over there and had a couple weeks of very hard miles. Got them done, but like it was, not a fun situation, and it involved a lot of, getting up, running the bare minimum, and then sleeping for the rest of the day. So, but I got it done.
Very, very impressive. So how do you deal with women flirting with you?
I don't think I have that. Like, I don't think a whole lot of women like flirt with me. I, I'm not a real social person. I mean, I know I'm social online, but like, most of my time is spent working, running, or being with my family. So there's not a whole lot of opportunity. I don't drink alcohol.
Mm,
We don't go to bars. Like, I don't go clubbing or any of that stuff. So the opportunity for a woman to flirt with me would be like, I guess on my social media. But like looking at my like statistics, I'm like mostly men follow me. Like I think I'm like 80% men. Um, and I think most of the women that follow me tend to be like older ladies.
mhm.
So and and it seems like everyone respects my relationship with my wife because I post so much about her. I can't literally think in my head like one inappropriate DM or anything that I've gotten from anybody. But if I did, I'd probably just block them and moved on.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I think Lauren probably gets more than I do just because, men tend to be a little bit more aggressive in the DM space. She and she probably has to deal with it more than I do. But, for a woman to DM me when I'm like putting out how happy I am in my relationship, like it's not like a thing, or at least it hasn't been a thing. Plus I'm like old, I'm like 46. It's not like, it's not like young chicks are like trying to pick up on me or something like that.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, but
Uh, do you what do you think keeps a man from cheating?
I don't know. I think that's like almost like a philosophical question of like, you know, what what you like in life or something. I mean, I think there's just certain men that are like wired a certain way that and maybe that's a cop out, but it's like they just have to like continually pursue other people. And I've seen that in men. And then it seems like there's men that just like are very like monogamous and just want to be with one person and like don't want to like stray. Um, I, you're either one or the other. I mean, I don't think, if you're a cheater, then you're a cheater. And if you're not, then you're not. And I think that if you, I think it's hard to change because it's like something inside you. I don't know if it's biological or whatnot, but yeah, yeah. I mean, the human species is like meant to procreate.
Mm,
And I think on some level, there's probably still like part of the biological system that just is like, you have to, put your seed out there to as many people as possible because, back in the day, that was like how you continued on the species. And, there's probably still a vestige of that in a lot of men. Mix that with testosterone, which, makes some men act crazy and things like that. But for me, it's just not like a thing. Like I'm just a one person relationship type guy. I can't even imagine trying to like juggle more than one woman at a time. That would be a nightmare to me. Like
yeah.
I always tell Lauren, I'm like, you think I'm going to run less? Is that what you think? You think like I want to like compromise how much I can run. I'm going to run less and go spend time with some random person or some other like, and never going to happen.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I don't, she is, yeah, she's totally enough for me. And I, I think if you're with somebody and that person isn't enough for you, then like, then you've met the wrong person. There's, um, 4 billion people in this world, or however many, 6 billion, I don't know, a lot of billion people. So somewhere out there, there's someone that, should satisfy your appetite. But, I know people that they just love to cheat. They just love to, constantly be going to something else, and they're never satisfied. So I guess to each his own.
That's why I bring up that question. It just seems like some people, they can't help themselves when they get that attention, you know?
Yeah. And I think this new generation it's an interesting situation. It seems like there's a lot less monogamy and a lot more just try as much ice cream as you possibly can. So
Mm,
it'll be interesting to see how that plays out when they want to settle down, or if that means that they won't want to settle down. Um, I mean, for me growing up, like, you had like the 60s and 70s where everybody was kind of doing that. And then it was like, hey, we got AIDS and it's going to kill you if you sleep around. So then it kind of like
yeah.
tightened the reins on my generation. And then now it's like, now AIDS isn't a thing. So it's like, it seems like we're back in that like free love, like environment, but like, it, you could see something else coming along, and then, what's going to happen. So I don't know.
Yeah.
Not for
Well,
me, but I do
that's
know
one,
that it exists.
that's one of the reasons why I wanted to start the podcast, to have like a positive influence for marriage, because of the Andrew Tates and all these other
Yeah.
guys, Dan Bazillion. So, but you can't defeat those guys,
Well, it's, they have millions and millions of followers, so,
Yeah.
and all those little boys, they relate to that because they're still young in their testosterone era.
Mhm. So do you think men and women can just be friends?
Uh, I think yes. I've had female friends that like I've had my whole life that, were never sexual, but I think when you're in a relationship that it's a little weird to go hang out with like the opposite sex, like by yourself, like if you're in a couple and it's like, like you could go hang out like as a couple and like, you can like talk, but like when it comes to, hanging out, like I think that might cross a line when you're in a relationship, unless your spouse is involved. I have like female friends online, that I've raced with, and things like that.
Mhm.
But like, it's very, it's just very casual online, just more or less just talking about running and things like that. But like, it's not like I go hang out with them in my spare time. Um, so I think yeah. Once you kind of sort of cross that line into like the real life, I wouldn't want my wife to go hang out with like some dude that she was like, oh yeah, I've been friends with him for whatever. Like, it's like, I don't give a shit. Like, you're not that she would do that, but like, I wouldn't be into that at all. So
Mhm. No, I think that's an interesting question because of that that point. Like, you need a line. There has to be a line. So you just can't be friends with a lot of different women. I think that at some point it just blurs the line. So I definitely agree with that answer. I really only have people that I work with that are female, but yeah, I'm not going to go hang out with them, just the two of us.
well, and it's like I trust my wife. It's not, the issue
Mm.
isn't that I don't
Yeah.
trust the other person. I don't know who they are. And
Mhm.
when she became a nurse, I said, "Hey, I'm going to pay for all this. I'm going to make you a nurse. You're going to do all this stuff, but you're never going to work in the ER." She was like, "Okay," because the ER is toxic. Soup. You got all the cops and the firefighters and the paramedics and all the doctors, and they're all just trying to fuck each other. And, it's like, not that I don't trust my wife, but like, I don't want her exposed to that all the time either. I don't need like
Yeah.
some random cop coming in and like hitting on her all the time, or some paramedic always hitting on her. Like, I don't want that either. So, I trust her, but I also, I don't think she needs to like be exposed to that all the time either. And it's like, if she's got a male friend, which Lauren doesn't, but if she did, like, I don't know who this dude is. And like, even if I didn't know who he was, like, why you want to hang out with my wife? Like, it just seems weird to me.
Yeah. No, I completely agree with that. And why would you put yourself in a situation like that? And I don't think my wife is going to cheat either, but she's had people be like, "Hey, come on out," and she's like, "Nah, I don't think so."
Yeah.
Because she
I
knows
mean, we don't
it's
drink or do
situational.
anything. So, we don't, we don't get like, nobody invites us out because like,
Uh,
it's like we're like the party poopers, it's like,
mm,
well, hey, what are you guys doing? Oh, it's like, we're probably going to run and then we're going to sit in our sauna and then we're going to get our cold plunge and then we're going to eat dinner and then we're going to get in bed, and that probably doesn't sound fun to a lot of people. But it sounds fun to us. So,
yeah,
yeah, we're not the life of the party, and we don't do all that stuff. So you stay like that long enough, and then you lose that whole circle of friends. That's still like, I'm 46, and I still have friends that just go out and get hammered all the time, and like post it all over social media, and like they're just like getting, and I'm just like, just like, it's just amazing to me that that's like what you're doing with your life in the almost
mm,
50 years old. You're still just partying like you're in high school. It seems like such a waste.
yeah, I agree. Um, so what are some of the tough times that you and your wife had to go through together?
We've had some pretty difficult issues with her ex-husband, um, that I'm not going to get totally into, but like
Yeah,
it's been a challenge. Um, and I mean, our kids are getting to that age where they're, getting into trouble and doing things, and there's been some challenging challenging issues with the kids as well. Um, so yeah, I would say like our biggest issues are the exes and how we get along with them, and then our kids, like, becoming teenagers and like issues that involve that. It's we definitely, it's a struggle, to try to find the right answer. A lot of times there's not necessarily a right answer. Um, and that can be kind of hard.
mm. Um, so do so I want to bring this up, and if you don't want to talk about it, then I can delete it. But your dad passed away a couple years ago, correct?
Yeah, 2 years ago. Yep.
Yeah, my dad passed away. I got a tattoo on my arm like 4 years ago at this point. Do you want to talk about how she helped you get through that?
Yeah, I mean, it's still a hard point for me. I like
Yeah,
still really struggle, especially around like the anniversary of his death, and Father's Day, his birthday, things like that are very hard. And she, my dad and her really got along really well, and you know before he died, like one of the things he said to me was like, don't leave her. He really likes Lauren a lot. So, um but she was very, very loving and supporting when he died, and like his, there's not a whole lot to say. There's not a whole lot you do. You kind of just hug the person, and you kind of just are there for them, and realize they're having a hard time, and give them their space and their grace, but like also just love them. And she's done a really good job of doing that. While also, she mourns his death too, because she was friends with him as well. So,
yeah,
I feel bad. It's like, since I've been with Lauren, like my stepdad died, both my grandparents died, and my dad died in this like 8-year period. So, I've had some like hard times as far as losing people I love. I'm down to just my mom. So, you know, hopefully she'll, and Lauren's really, really close to my mom as well. So, you know, keep living there, mom, because I need you. So, um, but yeah, she's really, really good when it comes to, because I'm I have no problem showing emotion as a man. I know some people, think it's a sign of weakness, but I'm not that person. I will cry and I will, show my emotion, and like it makes people super awkward, but like people call and be like, "Oh, how's it going?" And I'm not the type of person that's always like, "Oh, I'm good." I will like be like, "Well, I'm actually having a really hard day today." You know, like my chief called to give me the good news about the BC test, and he was like, because I got like first place, and he was like, "Oh, da da da," and then he's like, "How's it going?" And I'm like, "Well, today's the anniversary of my dad's death, so it's not going real well, but this is some good news." So, I mean,
Mhm.
I'm not gonna like sugarcoat or bullshit if I'm having a hard time, no matter when it is. So, I know some people like to push down emotions and hide them, and I'm definitely not that guy, and I like to talk about it a lot on social media because I like to normalize the fact that I have mental health issues, and I think talking about it and bringing it out in the open is like a really good way to address it, but also it's a really good way to like normalize it so that other people don't struggle and just push it down and think like, "Oh, Andy's always doing great." Like, no, Andy's not always doing great. Andy struggles just like you do,
Mhm.
and I want people to understand that.
Yeah. I think that's a great point that you made with your dad passing when you said, what can you say, what can you do? And with when my dad passed, my wife, she didn't know either. You don't know, right? You just try to do your best, but she was always around me. She didn't leave the room or try to give me my space necessarily. Not that I needed it, but I just needed her in the room
Yeah.
just in case I needed to talk to her, touch her, hug her. And I think with that, that's what really helped me out with that. But that, as a man, it's hard to lose your dad because they're always there. They're there ever since you're a kid. And I told one of my buddies this the other day. I think 4 months after he passed, I I was like, oh, I got to call my dad. And then I was like, oh my God. It's just one of those things in your head, where you're
Yeah.
just, oh, I haven't talked to him in a while. Let's see what he's up to. So,
Yeah. I mean, I have so many things in my life that I like want to run past him. So many big decisions, and he was always like my sounding board. And so that's the hardest part, is not having somebody to like, yeah, I have friends and, peers and things like that. But like, I don't have my dad to like, "Hey, what do you
yeah,
think about this? I'm thinking about doing this. What do you think?" Yeah, that's, I think for me, that's the hardest thing, is I just really love to find out what his opinion is on certain things.
yeah, I completely agree. So we'll move on. Uh,
Before I
what's your
break down.
favorite? What's your favorite interaction that you have with your spouse? Uh, as firefighters, we don't really have it every day, but most days.
I mean, I think when I come home from work, it's always really nice to see her. Like
Mm,
that's absence. What's the saying about absence makes the heart grow fonder? Something like
yeah,
that. And it's like, when you've been at work for like 2, 3, 4 days straight, and you come home and you see your wife, it's like, even though you've been talking to her on the phone and like whatever, it's always really nice to come home and see her. I definitely enjoy that.
nice. So, how do you show that your wife that you love her?
I mean, I say it a lot. We
Mm,
we overly talk about how much we love each other, for sure. Um,
nice.
and I mean, I spoil her a lot. I, I I hate getting gifts, but I love giving gifts. So I definitely spoil her when it comes to all things gift giving, jewelry, flowers, um, whatever she wants to do. So yeah, I would say verbally and then also financially.
Nice. Yeah, I don't know what it is about the gifts, man. I'm not good at getting them.
Yeah.
She like
Well, if I
looks
need
at
anything,
me.
I
I'm
just
like,
I just buy it. So I don't need,
yeah,
you know. I don't need somebody else to do that for me.
So any advice that you'd like to give to newlyweds?
Um, I think the biggest thing is just always just communication is like probably the biggest thing, and just always be talking to your spouse and knowing what's going on in their life. And if you feel like you're getting upset, like you're getting angry, just realize that like anger is normally like a secondary emotion. And so try to like figure out why you're feeling angry instead of like being angry. Like, are you sad? Are you upset? Are you disappointed? Like, what about the interaction is like making you angry? Um, and then really try not to like act on any sort of anger. Um, find whatever works for you, whether it's, walking away from the situation, or, even if you have to like go in the bathroom for like a minute or two and just kind of reset, but like try not to like say things or do things when you're in the heat of high emotion. Because sometimes it's hard to like take things back once they're said, even if it's, even if you didn't mean it at the time. But if you keep an open communication and like really know what's going on, then hopefully you won't come to that. But and then obviously don't cheat.
Yeah.
So
So how has intimacy changed throughout the years of your marriage?
um I don't think it really has. Like we stay pretty intimate, like, and there not like a big change when it comes to that. I mean, other than like we live together now, so we have more opportunities, but like
Yeah.
um yeah, I mean that is not an issue in our house. Like we we're both very into that, and it like works out really well. So we match each other's energy quite a bit, which is another thing I think is important in a relationship. You have to find somebody that like matches your energy when it comes to intimacy. Like if you have one person that's like really into it and one person that's not, I think you're going to struggle in the relationship. Yeah, I had a friend who's like got married and his like wife never wanted to have sex, and I was like,
Yeah.
bro, this is not gonna. I'm telling you right now, I don't want to be the doomsday guy, but like this is not going to work out. You need to have somebody that wants to jump your bones just as much as you want to jump their bones, and it didn't work out. Spoiler
Yeah.
alert, they're divorced, and now he's remarried to somebody that wants to jump his bones all the time, and he's super happy. So um yeah, like if if you're not hypersexual, then you should probably find somebody that's not hypersexual. And if you are like a 14-year-old boy like I am, then you should probably find somebody that has that same energy.
Mhm. Yeah, that's one of the reasons why I bring up that question, because I know that there's a lot of sexless marriages, right? Where they're like sex camels, and
Yeah.
one person's complaining about it, and it's like I have not come close to figuring out what the answer is to that question.
Yeah, I mean, I
Where
think if you're a guy, like another thing is like, make sure you get your testosterone checked,
Mhm.
because as we get older we start to produce less testosterone, and that can like affect things too. Um, so like you want to make sure that you're as a male, like you're like, if you don't not producing enough testosterone, you might like not have that sex drive anymore. And then it's kind of like that whole use it or lose it, right? You get out of the cycle of doing it, and then it just becomes normal to like not do it, and then you don't get that like, I think there needs to be a connection, right? There's like that
Mhm.
physical connection when you're like with your spouse, and it's like really important for the relationship just as much as like communication and all that stuff. Like you need that like physical intimacy as well, for
Mhm.
a successful relationship.
Yeah, I always find, and me and my wife are very similar. If we go too long without it, then it's like, hey, what's going on? Like, are you feeling all right? And it could just be because we didn't have that intimacy. where
Yeah.
we weren't that close and have a connection that helped us throughout the day, you know? So that's why I think it's a great question. I appreciate you answering it.
Yeah.
So do you think being in the fire service is the reason why this question's in here? Do you think there's a stigma with loving your wife?
Um, I don't think so. Not, I mean, not at the departments I've worked for.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I work for a small department now, and we're all very like family orientated, and like, I mean, we have a couple like younger single guys that we've hired recently, but like most everybody is like married and like has kids, and is like we're all about our families. So, um, yeah, I mean, I've heard stories, but like
Yeah.
not from personal experience have I seen it, but like maybe in, you know, bigger departments where you have lots of young single guys, then like they don't understand the marriage dynamic and they're working with guys that do. And then it becomes a, you know, anytime there's like different cultures mixing together, you're going to have conflict. But where I work, it's, you know, pretty much everyone is married with kids and like we're all, you know, seems to be all happily married. So, yeah, there's no negativity when it comes to it where I work.
That's awesome to hear because at my department, it depends on where you go, but yeah, it's just like it's pretty negative a lot. So that's one of the reasons why I put the question in there. There's a lot of young
Yeah,
guys. I work for Miami-Dade County and it's a huge county. You know, we have 20, maybe 2,800 employees or something like that. So some of them are 20, some of them are, you know, older.
right.
So, so you think that it's important to share the same hobbies as your wife?
No, no, I don't. I mean, yeah, I think that you should be able to like do your own thing. I mean, it's nice to do things together, but I think also like you should be your own person. You know,
Mm,
you fell in love with somebody because they're their own person, and then you get together. It'd be silly to like be like, okay, now you know, we're gonna form this one weird person that does everything together. Like, it's fun to do things together, but you know, it's also fun to like, you know, I do my thing, she does her thing, and then we get together and talk about it.
yeah.
So, I mean, she's really into weightlifting, and I have been in points in my life, but right now is not that time where I like want to go out and like see how much I can bench press and things. Like, you know, I did that in my 20s, and I was really into it. But like now, I'm like, oh, the shoulder is like not quite. You know, you start you start to like not be able to do the like super heavy weight and all that stuff as much as you used to, and you know, it's not my thing. So. But I'm like super happy that she's into it. I'm obviously really into running. I mean, she likes it, but it's not like, I don't think it's like her favorite thing in the world. Like, you know, um, yeah. So, I mean, I think you gotta be your own person. And I think that's what makes relationships kind of nice too, is like, you know, like you're bringing different flavors to it. You're not just the same person.
Hmm. Does your relationship change in front of your kids?
Um, I mean, we probably, you know, there's certain things we don't talk about in front of the kids, obviously, like adult themed things. And, you know,
Yeah.
also like, you know, the struggles like with the exes and stuff like that. We don't venture into that, but like, no, I mean, I think in general, like, you know, affection and things like that, joking around, like stays pretty much the same. Um, I mean, our kids are like embarrassed by us, you know, because well, one, I have like, you know, a giant social media following, and she's got a smaller one, but still pretty big. And so our kids are like mortified that, um, you know, that we're out there and their friends and enemies can like Google us and see what's going on, you know? So, um, but obviously when you put your whole life on social media or most of your life on social media, like, you're not like, you can't really be different around your kids because they can watch your social media. So
Yeah. No,
You
that's a
know,
good point.
like my kids like watch my race videos and like see me losing my mind and doing all that sort of stuff. And yeah, it's a different dynamic for sure.
Hmm.
Probably most kids don't know the like don't see all the different sides of their parents, you know, because their parents only show them what they see like when they're in front of them. But like social media
Hmm.
sort of opens that up in a different way.
It's probably good. It gets them a better opportunity to know you at, better, I guess, at different points of your running and races.
Well, and
Yeah.
when I die, there's going to be endless videos of me. You know, I think one of my biggest regrets with my dad is I don't have more video of him. You know, I wish I had more just videos of him talking and just doing stuff. You know, I have tons of pictures, but like not a lot of video. His voice, things like that. That's that's what I miss. So my kids are not going to have that problem with me. They'll be able
Yeah.
to like go back and if they wanted to watch my entire life for like the last decade, which is interesting.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons why I wanted to start this podcast too, because I think if I would have had an opportunity to have this conversation with my dad and have him answer these questions and everything, that would mean so much to me,
Yeah,
long form conversation, especially if I could have got it on video, I could just watch it, whenever I needed advice. So I always give people that advice too. If their dad's still alive and they're getting older, I always tell them write down a list of questions because you don't. My dad was a runner. He would run marathons, and I had a messed up knee for a long period of time. So I had a torn ACL and meniscus, and I didn't get it fixed until I was like 35. It wasn't a good move, but so I didn't get into running until later, and my dad was a runner, so he had passed, and then I got into running, and then I thought, man, I wish he was here to ask him all these questions, you know,
right.
and
Yeah,
I wish that I just would have asked him those questions, even though I wasn't really into it at the time. Doesn't mean you're never going to be into it. So that's one of the reasons why I decided to start this podcast as well.
yeah. I just got this thing off like the TikTok shop, and it's like a card game that you can ask people and questions. And
Okay.
so like I just got it. I'm gonna go over and interview my mom. You know, it's like
Oh man.
you get a card and it's like, tell me about the happiest time in elementary school, or like, all these random questions. And I'm gonna videotape it, and that way I will have, a record of like, interviewing my mom. The other thing I did, I went on like ChatGPT and I was like, give me 100 questions that you can, ask your mom before she dies. And then ChatGPT is like, gives you this like long list of like all these like great questions. So it's definitely, I'm not gonna make that mistake a second time. Because that way I can, watch it when she's passed.
Hmm. So what do you think is the best thing you could do for your kids?
Just be a really good example, you know. I think, you can say all the things in the world, but it's really actions speak louder than words, and kids pick up on actions far more than they pick up on words. Like I've had full conversations with my kids and they retained zero of what I said. And, but if they, I mean, seriously, like I'm like, you don't remember this conversation we just had like yesterday? And they'll like literally have no recollection. Giving them advice on how to handle situations or do anything like they does not like soak in. But, being that example and showing them, the right way to do it, I think is, they pick up on that a lot more, like loving your wife, like being like showing them how to treat a woman, or how a woman should be treated is not a verbal conversation. It's an everyday watch how we interact, and that's what you want, and kids will see that. My daughters hopefully watch it and they think this is, they don't think, but like it gets into their brain. This is how a man is supposed to treat a woman. And my son watches it and he thinks this is how I should treat a woman. And, that goes with all life lessons, but like, what you do is what your kids are going to do. And it's not what you say, you can't just like yell at your kids and expect them, to get through. You have to like show them the way. So I think that's the most important thing.
It's a great answer. Lead by example, right?
Yeah. I mean, I try to do that in all aspects of life, but I think with kids, it's, although sometimes as a captain, it feels like you have a bunch of kids at the fire station. So
I can imagine.
yeah.
Yeah, I had my son the other day. He saw me do that 50K. So we usually go for a walk, and he put on his shoes and he's like, "Run, run." He's pretty much 2.5 years old.
Yeah.
I was
That's
like, "All
great.
right, let's go." I was like, "Let's go." Put on the shoes. We ran. He did a 17:28 mile.
Yeah.
I'm not one to brag, but that's pretty good for a kid, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah. No, it's awesome. I mean, it's, my kids definitely, when they were really, really young, loved to run with me as well. Now, as they've gotten older, it's like not as cool, but, definitely, I'm not leaving them a bad impression when it comes to running,
Yeah. All right. I'm going to ask you one last question, and it's kind of a funny one. It comes from another firefighter, but it's do you fart and or poop in front of your wife?
Not normally. We have separate bathrooms, and like I'm not a big fart poop guy. So like I don't want to like experience her farts and poops, and so like I don't normally want her to experience mine. Although like when you're out running, all bets are off. Like we've both had multiple GI emergencies. I always run with wet wipes, and we've had to like go off into the bushes, both of us, multiple times. And, but on the day to day, I'm going to say no. We did not share those experiences together.
Nice. Well, that's pretty much all I have for you as far as these questions go. Do you have anything else that you want to talk about or say?
Just my wife was really excited that I was going to do this podcast.
Mhm.
I showed her the questions and she was like, "Oh, I can't wait to listen to it." Normally she sits in the room and listens to me do podcasts, but she's not here today. So, yeah, I just, I think it's a cool opportunity. Like, I normally just talk about running and things like that. Sometimes I do fire podcasts, but this was a unique experience. And, just like you said, it's kind of cool to document all this sort of stuff. And like, someday it'll be fun to listen to this, maybe like in, 10 or 15 years, if the internet's still around,
Hopefully, right?
Yeah. I mean, just to hear the experience. Yeah, but just, thanks for having me on. And, yeah. Yeah, it was fun.
Trust me, the pleasure was all mine. Thank you. I really do appreciate it.
Yeah, for sure.
And I just want you to know that it is okay to love your wife.
It is okay.